from the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, to the All Progressives APC, All Progressives Congress, the APC, the only stable party in Nigeria. Pursuant to Section 68, subsection 1G of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. I write, this is to the Senate President on behalf of the Senate, and the letter is, I write to formally notify the Senate through your esteemed office of my defection from the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, to the All Progressives Congress, the largest party in Africa, in accordance with the provisions of Section 68, subsection 1G of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. My decision to bid goodbye to the NNPP is anchored on compelling and undeniable developments within the party, which have rendered the party severely divided and dysfunctional. Over the past months, I have observed a growing number of litigations that have practically torn the party apart and left its structure fractured. And these litigations, I may say, include NNPP versus Chief Boniface, Anye Bonham, and 20 others. Chukwuneye Uguru and others versus NNPP and INEC. NNPP, Ahmed Ajuji and others versus Dr. Boniface, Anye Bonham and others. All of which clearly centered around issues of party disunity, factional leadership, and the legitimacy of its operations put in doubt. These legal battles have not only eroded internal cohesion, but have created parallel and conflicting authorities within the party. A further manifestation of this division is the existence of multiple factions, each with its own distinct party logo. This is serious. This unprecedented scenario underscores the depth of the division and reflects clearly a clear and public splintering of the party's identity in both form and substance. That's the party is divided in form and substance. In view of these circumstances, which in my respectful opinion meet the threshold of a division in the political party as contemplated under the proviso to Section 68, subsection 1G of the Constitution, I have come to the firm conclusion that continuing my membership with the NNPP would no longer serve the national interest nor the interests of my constituents which I represent. Therefore, in the spirit of democratic accountability and in line with my constitutional right, I have moved to the All Progressives Congress, a national platform, an international platform, which I believe will better support my legislative responsibilities and the aspirations of the good people of my senatorial district. Kindly cause this notification to be read on the floor of the Senate for necessary record and legislative action. Please accept the distinguished Senate President and distinguished senators the assurances of my highest regards. This is signed by no other personality than the senator with 16 local governments in his senatorial district. The distinguished Senator Suleiman Abdurrahman Kau, OFR, PhD, Kano South Senatorial District.
Does it from that confidence? Say look, you know. And the man sits the long arm. Now the man sits.
Let me enter. Have you snap? Snap again, no?
We'll get 2 more now. If we don't go far. Imagine.
Are you making bad fish? Yes, sir. Okay. We are now with my currency. I don't have problem now.
So you should take 2 of us.
Yes, that is okay.
Thank you. Welcome.
But it's not, you don't have to decamp today.
Mr. President, very distinguished, and that's part of the beauty of democracy, Mr. President, that when the majority have their way, the minority will still have their say. And I want to begin by appreciating the minority leader for not being too hostile this morning. He wasn't particularly friendly, but he was not hostile because the realities had begun to dawn on him. And may I say that the reason you actually chose to invite me, the reason you recognize me above him is because I am coming on a point of order. And my point of order is order 41, personal explanation
42.
Order 42, personal explanation. And my personal explanation is on a matter that is not controversial at all and does not call for any debate. It is for me to be able to welcome an indefatigable Democrat and a fine gentleman who has chosen to dom the new Nigerian People's Party for the All Progressive Congress. Most distinguished Senator Kawu Smiler, I want to say that it's really our pleasure on this side of the aisle, on behalf of all of us in the majority party, the All Progressive Congress, to welcome him into our political family and say that in overriding public interest, we are not taking this defection for granted. The people of Kano, who he represents, especially from his senatorial district, and with whom he had done a lot of consultation. I'm sure we are not the only happy ones. The entire people of Kano South Senatorial District are also happy that he has defected to APC. And we can only say to the people of Kano State, the entire people of Kano State, that this means so much to us. We will continue to be at our best. We congratulate the Deputy President of the Senate, who, of course, is representing Kano North Senatorial District and who is the leader of the Kano caucus of this Senate. And, of course, to our brother and distinguished colleague, distinguished Senator Anga, who is representing Kano Central. We want to say that we'll continue to work with you while you are still in NNPP. You are a principal officer and you are doing very well, and you are doing the work of Nigeria. And by the grace of God, as time goes by, we also look forward to welcoming you into APC. But in the meantime, it's been such a pleasure to work with the synergy of the three of you from Kano. Mr. President, I want to thank you, and on behalf of all of us, the majority side, I want to welcome Senator Kawu, and to all of our most distinguished colleagues, cerebral people, distinguished Nigerians who sit to my right as members of the minority party. I just want to say that, you know, all good things, sometimes they say, must end. Distinguished Senator Kawu has been a very strong member, you know, of your coalition and team, but like he came, allow him to go, to buy out in a place of glory. And we will continue to work together and wish ourselves the very best in overriding public interest. Thank you so much. And finally, to Senator Abaribe, I just want to say that we feel you. We understand your working pattern, and by God's grace, we will continue to work with you. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I must say that I was happy that in the course of your brief welcome speech, you thanked and congratulated the Deputy Senate President, who is the leader of not just the Senate caucus in Kano State, but the entirety of the Northwest of Nigeria in the Senate. And you also alluded to the fact that the distinguished Senator Abaribe was feeling very lonesome. And we have to, Senator Abaribe, we are not sorry because we are happy. No matter your look, we will continue to do what is necessary for Nigeria. So the movement of Senator Kawu is necessary for Nigeria. Nigeria needs unity at a time like this so that we don't have too much political acrimony. And even as you are sitting there looking so lonely, if you, to your right is the senior Senator Tambuwal, who continues to whisper into my ear, and I won't disclose it today. So I recognize the minority leader. A point of order?
Mankau, representing Kano South Senatorial District, Mr. President. I am coming under Order 42 personal explanation, which we are all conversant with. If you permit me, sir, I have a brief explanation to the Senate and of course Nigeria and my constituents, which is not controversial, and it will add value on what we are doing, our constitutional representation. If you allowed me, Mr. President, I will just share a very brief explanation to my constituent and of course Nigeria and Democrat.
You have the floor.
Mr. President, my dear distinguished and honorable colleagues, I remain Suleiman Abrahaman Kau Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District. Mr. President, as I request just to give me a brief time to explain to my constituent and Nigeria of my reason of defecting to all People's Congress, APC. Mr. President, I have a 3 cogent region which I want, and I am sending it to true lovers of democracy, more particularly my constituents. It is a constitutional representation. I am representing people, and they are looking up to me to bring something better and to do something better. 3 areas. So all politics is local. As we start this work here in June 2003, I have almost 5 motions. 5 motions, which to do with the interest of Kano people, Nigeria, and of course my constituents. My first motion here is Kano Airport, where we complain that the previous administration has given out our airport at a given amount with unknown people. People are complaining. When I moved it here, my colleague supported me. And one of the beauty facts of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Asuaju, through the Ministry of Aviation, they revoke that agreement and return back the airport to the Kano people and federal government of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President. The second is the issue of Niger Republic. We have 2 motions here, closing of the border of Niger, then and re-engaging Niger to continue as a brothers keepers. Mr. President, approve the resolution of the Senate, which is coming under me. Then another most important legislation is local government autonomy. When I moved the motion last year, all of us supported the motion, and Nigerians are happy. And Mr. President, in his own wisdom, as democratic and grassroots politician, approves the request of Mr. President, which my constituents are very happy, and it is very dear, more especially to northern Nigeria, where there is clear reasons that there is correlation between Nigeria and local government administration. Another one is Gaya Woodley Road. I moved a motion here last year that there is need for federal government to continue and finish the abandoned contract of first phase of Kano Maiduguri Road. Now, Mr. President, after my motion, two Gaya Road at the sum of 120-something billion. Which, by the grace of God, now and reconstruction. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
For into order, because
People of Kano, not just your senatorial district. And like you said, all politics is local. That for a man who has done so much for Kano State, it's only befitting. It's only fitting that you should reciprocate by joining him so he can do more for your senatorial district and Kano State as a whole. So I thank you for the wise decision they have taken. Leader of the Senate.
Order paper today. However, before we go into the only fully request that we go into an executive session to enable us discover very salient issues of overriding public interest, and then we'll come back to continue with this. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader. That in view of the fact that we have only one item, very major, divided into 4, Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, and Nigeria Tax Bill 2025, that we should proceed into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the Senate and of course Nigeria, and thereafter resume plenary to consider clause by clause of the report of the bills. But distinguished Senate Leader, I think we should give an opportunity first to the chairman of the Committee on Finance to lay the bills before us. Huh? Oh, yeah, it was done yesterday. You did all yesterday. Okay, so those in support that we proceed to executive session say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we proceed. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in a closed session deliberated on matters relevant to the workings of the Senate in particular and the National Assembly in general. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session? Leader of the Senate.
The order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the committee listed on the order paper. Distinguished senators will recall that the bills were referred.
Sani Musa, what you do is to give us
the summarized report on the Nigerian Tax Reform Bills 2025. I am Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. I move the motion that today the Senate do consider the bills on the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2025 SB 584 and the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill 2025 SB 585. I so move, sir. Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. Report of the Senate Committee on Finance on the Nigerian Tax Reform Bills 2025. The Senate at its plenary on Thursday, 28 November 2024, read for the second time the 4 bills presented by Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and referred same to the Committee on Finance for further legislative actions. The background of the bill is that Nigerian tax reform bills is aimed to modernize the country's tax framework in line with global best practices, enhance revenue generation, and improve ease of compliance. The reforms are driven by the need to address structural inefficiencies, broaden the tax base, and align fiscal policies with economic realities. Anchored on international reporting standards such as the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, base erosion and profit shifting framework, the International Monetary Fund, tax policy recommendations, and the World Bank Ease of Paying Taxes Index, these bills seek to streamline tax administration, reduce leakages, and promote transparency. Key reforms include digitalization of tax system, rationalization of multiple taxation, and the introduction of incentives to boost investments. These legislative changes are part of the broader fiscal strategy to improve tax to GDP ratio, reduce over-reliance on oil revenue, and create a more competitive business environment. The reform also align with Finance Act enacted since 2019, ensuring a progressive tax system that fosters economic growth while meeting global compliance standards. The 4 bills are the Joint Revenue Board Bill 2025, SB 583, the Nigerian Revenue Services Establishment Bill 2025, SB 584, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill 2025, SB 585, and the Nigerian Tax Bill 2025, SB 586. All the members attended the committee public hearing and the committee retreat, which took us about 5 days. And based on that, we engaged consultants who have also worked on these reform bills, and also added to it all the affected acts and subsidiary legislations, which you can see at 40 in page 6, from capital gain tax to Casino Act case, company income taxes, personal income taxes, industrial development income taxes, stamp duties, value-added tax, venture capital, petroleum profit, customs and excise, NIDA, National Lottery, Third Fund, Oil and Gas, Petroleum Industry Act 2021, the Nigerian Startup Act, the company's income tax, etc., and the presidential orders of Mr. President were all duly studied, considered, and acted upon. Highlights of the tax reform bills: there are the Joint Revenue Board Bill, which the objectives was to enhance coordination, harmonization, optimization of revenue collection, reduction of revenue leakages, elimination of overlapping tax jurisdiction, capacity building, and transparency. The Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill was also to improve revenue collection efficiency, enhance taxpayer compliance, combating tax evasion and corruption, increase national revenue, creating more predictable and stable revenue environment, promoting fiscal sustainability. The Nigerian Tax Administration Bill objective was for simplification and consolidation, enhance efficiency through digitalization, strengthening taxpayer rights and obligations, and improve revenue mobilization. Was primarily to enhance revenue, tax harmonization and simplification, improve tax compliance, promoting investment and economic growth, aligning with international best practices, and addressing tax evasion and avoidance. The methodology was interaction with various stakeholders, which I have highlighted earlier. We invited so many at the public hearing, almost about 64 organizations, CSOs attended, and this bill was widely circulated among all these stakeholders. The findings on the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Board, which we considered, were Clause 1, objectives of the Nigerian Revenue Service was amended. Functions of the service, Clause 4 of the bill was amended. Assistance in tax collection, Clause 5 of the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill was amended. Composition of the governing board, Clause 7 was amended. Powers of the board, Clause 7 was amended. Funding Clause 22, which provides funding through the services cost of collection, was amended. Audit of accounts, Clause 25 of the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2025 provides that the accounts of the service must be audited not later than 6 months after the end of the preceding year. This timeline is considered too long, as the report will be required for planning and consolidation. So that was also considered. Findings of the Nigerian Tax Bill, change of VAT distribution formula, proposed Tax Bill 6 to change the horizontal VAT distribution. Derivation was was also taken care of. There is no interpretation in the definition of the term derivation in the clause 77 of the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill. That was also considered and a definition was given to it. The use of the term is ambiguous and susceptible to manipulation and possible challenges at the stage of implementation. Harmonization of the offenses penalties of the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill was also harmonized. Clause 100, failure to register; 101, failure to file returns; 102, failure to keep books; 107, failure to remit tax deducted as source or self-account were also amended. Clause 104, 108, 121, 122, which deals with failure of fiscalization, non-compliance of virtual asset services providers like the cryptocurrencies, which today technology have taken over. False claim of tax refund and false fictitious claims of VAT have also been taken care on how the refund should be done. Findings of the Nigerian tax bill: development levy was considered. The bill introduced a 4% development levy to replace earmarked taxes in different laws, existing primary acts that are there, like the tertiary institution, Education Fund, National Information Technology, National Agency for Engineering Infrastructure, and the others were all considered. VAT rate, we decided to maintain the 7.5% as proposed by the Senate Committee, Senate Elders Committee. We decided to maintain that. The excise duty, which of course had created a lot of issues, we considered it that since Nigeria is a signatory to so many customs treaties, what we did for clause 157 of the Nigerian tax bill, we introduced taxes, duties on service charges.
Your microphone.
We assigned the collection to the Nigerian Revenue Service. This will now give the customs their right of collecting excise duties. But the collection of service charges, service levies, and surcharges will be done by the Nigerian Revenue Service. The Petroleum Industry Act, some of the sections of that act have been taken, and the importing with physical provisions into the Nigerian tax bill. The administration of royalty under the PIA, Petroleum Profit Tax, PPT, and Deep Offshore Island Basin Production Sharing Contracts is now under the administrative jurisdiction of the proposed Nigerian Revenue Service. It is important to note that this does not affect the entire provisions of the PIA, as other provisions remain valid and extant. The provisions of PIA that are proposed for amendment, which we looked at, are the Petroleum Industry Act number 6, 2021, as is amending by deleting part 1 to 6 of chapter.
Yes, Chairman, just a minute.
The Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2025, SB 583, the new insertion in clause 25 is as follows. The Tax Appeal Tribunal shall be funded through the Consolidated Revenue Fund, as may be appropriated by the National Assembly towards the execution of its functions. The changes in clause 26 provide clearer, more structured, and professional qualification standard for tax appeal commissioners, promoting efficiency and credibility in tax disputes. Clause 30, jurisdiction of the tribunal. The Act expands the tribunal jurisdiction to cover all federal and state tax laws, and to amend to restrict only to tax disputes and not controversies. The committee amended clause 31. Tax appeal commissioners shall be paid salaries and allowances to be determined by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. Committee also recommended clause 44, that is to create the office of the tax ombudsman, who shall be funded from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, as may be appropriated by the National Assembly. This is being done into providing funds for operations. The committee to also recommend 3% to be approved as the service cost of collection for the Nigerian Revenue Services. The committee amended clause 51 as follows, except as otherwise. I go back to the 3% because before it was 4%, which does not include the oil, was non-oil revenue. But with the amendment that has been done, so the committee amended 51, except otherwise provided under this act. Any other law or any enabling agreement or arrangement as otherwise authorized by the board of or the executive secretary, any person who discloses institutional information, communication, document, or internal conviction, he is going to be subjected to conviction or a fine to the tune of 5 million. Recommendation on revenue service. The objective of the bill should be amended, which we did, to provide for legal, institutional, and regulatory framework for the administration of taxes and revenue, accruable to government of the Federation as prescribed by the National Assembly. What we did, we amended clause 5. Functions of the revenue service should be amended as follows. Assessed persons, including corporations, companies, and individuals, be in collaboration with the relevant ministries and agencies, subject to the approval of the Senate, review the tax regimes and promote use of taxation to develop, stimulate the growth of economic activities. Adopt measures to identify, trace, freeze, confiscate, or seize proceeds derived from tax fraud and evasion, in line with the provisions of this bill and in line with international best practices. Clause 7 of the Revenue Service Act should be amended also. We seek to amend the chairman of the board we seek to amend that there should be a chairman of the board who shall be either the president or someone appointed by the president. So we now deliberated at our closed session, and we all agreed that we should have Mr. President to appoint a chairman for the board who is a non-executive chairman. And then there will be executive vice chairman who shall be the head of the revenue and subject to the confirmation of the Senate. Clause 13.2 of the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2025 should be amended also, that the secretary shall be a lawyer or a chartered accountant or a chartered secretary who shall not be less than the rank of a deputy director. Executive directors should be appointed by the president to the board. We propose that the relevant clause should be amended, that the president shall appoint executive directors for the service, each representing a geopolitical zone on rotational basis among the states in the zone, alphabetically or otherwise, depending on what Senate has agreed. And an executive director shall not come from the same state. That is the executive chairman and an executive director who will be heading one of the directorates. The timeline of reporting was also reduced from 6 to 3 months after the end of the year. Recommendation on the tax administration bill, which is one of the areas that have generated a lot of controversies. We have addressed that, and what we did with that recommendation is that the federal government will be taking 10% from the VAT distribution. We did not amend the present VAT structure. We left it at 7.5% instead of increasing it as was recommended. So in that structure, we said 10% of that collection will be for the federal government, 55% of that collection will go to the state government and the federal capital territory, and 35% to the local governments. The amount of VAT revenue standing in the credit of states and local governments shall be distributed among them on the following basis. We recommended that A, state governments will have 1, equality, which will carry 50% of that, population carry 20% with that, and place of consumption carry 30%. This is something that we deliberated with stakeholders. with the Forum of Subnational Governments, that's the Forum of Governors. We have discussed this with ulamas and everyone, and we agreed the only area that we also felt is necessary to address was how the local government's own will be shared. And on the local government, we said they share it among the local governments on equality, and then on their population 30%, and we stop there. Then we now change the word derivation to the place of consumption, which is the best because every VAT is a product of consumption. So we now said derivation to be replaced with consumption, place of consumption, to provide clarity. And we also provide for penalties for the following offenses, which are like clause 100, failure to register. If anybody fails to register for VAT, when you're supposed to have services and pay those VATs, they said 100, you will see it it's there in the bill. All the clauses that have been touched. Another area is in the Nigerian Tax Bill 586. The recommendation we made is on the development levy. We retain the funding of TED Fund, NASENI, NIDA, and NEL Fund, and also we now brought the cyber security. Because today, if you see how people are losing their money through the use of technology, we felt it's necessary to bring this to fore. And what we did with the development levy is that the tertiary education fund will now have 50%. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund will have 15%. National Information Technology Development Fund will have 10%. National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure will have 10%. National Cyber Security Funds will have 5%. And defense security, because we felt it necessary that the security of this country cannot be compromised. And hence, with the wisdom of Mr. President, we felt it's necessary to include defense security funds for 10%. We retained the VAT at 7.5. Company income tax, we didn't reduce it, and we didn't increase it. We left it at 30%. Clause 157 to 16, which provide for excise duty, which I have said earlier, we have deleted it. The provisions of BIA remained. They are extant laws. So those areas that we deleted, I have mentioned. That the Senate, thereby having carefully considered the above, the committee hereby recommends as follows, that the Senate do consider, pass the following bills. Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2025, Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2025, Nigerian Tax Administration Bill 2025, Nigerian Tax Bill 2025. In conclusion, the committee wish to thank Mr. President of the Senate and Chairman of the National Assembly. We also want to thank the leadership of the Senate, members of the committee, and all the senators for all the contributions they have made. For the first time, this committee had a retreat with over 62 senators in attendance. And all the days, we have never had anything less than 46 sitting. That shows you the importance of this. We thank the staffs of the Secretariat who works assiduously to ensure the timely completion of this report. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you. I went home and studied overnight. And during our closed session, they made very useful contributions. So it's very clear now that the entirety of the laws are embedded in our bosom. And we are ready to go into action. Is there anybody who would like to make comments before I call on the... No comment. The Senate Leader, you may now move that we go into a closed session.
Your Excellency,
into the Committee of the Whole to consider
Mr. President,
report on the Elders Council and their intervention. When the bills came, they generated a lot of furor. So the Senate, in its wisdom, had to set up the wisest of its men to go into the bills, study them, and bring out areas of possible conflict for the benefit of all Nigerians. And at the end of it, they now submitted their report to the Committee on Finance for deliberation. And I want to know whether they are well captured, and we are now ready to pass the submissions, all encompassing, for the benefit of Nigerians now and in the future. Senator Yaya, our leader.
My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I am Yaya Abdullahi representing Kebbi North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you recall that at its plenary held on 3rd December 2024, the Senate set up an ad hoc committee to interface with the executive arm of government, including the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, with a view to resolve the issues that arose in the course of legislative processing of the Tax Reform Bills 2024. The Senate will recall that in the wake of Mr. President's submission of the bill to the legislature on 3rd October 2024, some political and revenue sharing controversies arose. In the opinion of the Senate, these need to be understood and resolved before legislative consideration and processing of the bills progress beyond second reading. The members of the committee, I hope members have the sufficient have the copy of the report. They are there in paragraph 2. The methodology that we adopted is there in paragraph 3, which included interaction with the Attorney General of the Federation, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Executive Chairman, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, and also the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. This provided an opportunity for face-to-face discussions on the contentious issues and controversial issues that were contained in the bills. So paragraph 4, we presented our findings and recommendations on all the issues, and this included issue of harmonization of multiple taxes to a few that are simple and broad-based, unification of the revenue collection function, modernization and simplification of revenue administration, leveraging on the use of digital technology, the use of data and intelligence to curb evasion and tax avoidance, and removing tax provisions that are inimical to business and economic growth. These are the objectives of the reform bills. Now, we presented the bills, the 4 bills that were considered, and we made recommendations. Now, like I remarked, and also Senator Aleru and the chairman of the ad hoc committee, Abba Moro, also looked at, we made our recommendations regarding each of the bills, which you can see from page 4, page 5, page 6, and identifying the various areas that we think need the consideration or need the concern of this distinguished chamber. Now, in the process of having all of us, most of us actually being members of the Committee on Finance, we very closely interacted with the chairman of the Committee on Finance. In fact, during the consideration of all the meetings that we had with the Committee on Finance to consider these bills, the chairman of the committee and his deputy, who is one of our leader, deputy minority leader, we were very close together so that whatever issues that we found in these issues of concern, we took them close by close and advised the committee, the finance committee, to look at those issues and take decisions. And all these issues that we have listed from page 4 to the end of the document have all been discussed and thrashed out, and recommendations came out and were approved at the meetings of the committee. Therefore, from what we have here and what is contained in the bill, I am reliably informing the distinguished Senate and Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, that all these issues, as far as the areas, why we zeroed the areas of concern, have actually been addressed, and we didn't take the decision ourselves. We presented and argued at the meeting of the committee itself. It's the committee that took a decision on these issues one way or the other. Therefore, as far as we are concerned, as the members of the committee, a lot of the issues that we thought are quite controversial and those who nearly became centers or areas of controversy have been brought before the committee and thrashed to the satisfaction of all the members. With this, and to satisfaction and actually amicably resolved at the committee meeting. Therefore, what the chairman is bringing now is a comprehensive position that states the position that democratically arrived at the meeting of the Committee on Finance. But that does not, like I said earlier, preclude senators now from making observations if we go close by close. If there are areas of contention that the Senate needs to look at the time when we come for the consideration of close by close, chairman, senators may bring those issues up so that a decision will be taken one way or the other. I thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving the committee, the ad hoc committee, and including myself, the opportunity to serve the Senate and bring this report, formally at plenary. I thank you, Mr. President.
From your report, independently, the Elders Council took into account all the contentious areas and then summarized them and presented to the main finance committee, and they have all now been incorporated. So we can say to a large extent, over 95%, that we are now ready to go with the tax bills. It still does not stop any senator from raising any issue on any clause as we proceed. But I want to thank you and thank all our members. In fact, particularly the distinguished senators for their patriotism. I was thinking that Senator Wadada just came in now fresh. He should give us an opportunity to continue the discussion. Senator Wadada, you just arrived, right? Thank you for the opportunity of not disrupting the session. So I want to say that I'm happy with the processes that we have taken. And this is, like I said, we are doing this for Nigeria. Some of these laws date back to 1901, before 1950, some before 1960, and they were never reviewed. And some have become very anachronistic. The Stamp Duties Act, some of them were in the 1930s. So now that we are bringing this, harmonizing them, reviewing them to meet with modern realities, I believe strongly that Nigerians should be happy that yes, they have a very responsible Senate, they have a responsible National Assembly. Even as we proceed today, if there are still any areas, we will set up a conference committee to meet with the House of Representatives and then ensure that everything is smooth before we present to Mr. President for assent. Deputy Senate President. No, use your microphone.
84.2 says, no amendment shall be moved which is inconsistent with any cause already agreed upon or any decision already come to by the committee, and the chairman may at any time during the discussion of a proposed amendment withdraw it from the consideration of the committee if in his opinion the discussion shall have shown that the amendment violates the provisions of this rule. So then we must
what it means is that the committee had agreed. Thank you. So we now look at clauses 31 to 41.
Yes.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Senator Mongono.
21-3. My name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. What my concern is in 31-3, that in any legal proceeding under this bill or any of the laws authorized by the service, any act or thing done by the service or the board under any of the laws referred to in subclause 2 shall not be subject to challenge on the ground that such act or thing done was not proved to be in accordance with any direction given by the minister.
Don't go there. It already shows that whoever inserted this clause is planning to fight with the minister.
Yes, and it borders on Oster clause.
Yes.
And we are not in the military government where we host the jurisdiction of
we can't do that.
Courts.
We cannot.
It's draconian and obnoxious.
It's draconian, obnoxious, and self-serving.
Yes, sir. So we should expand that aspect of the provision.
Those in support that we...
Today we are in the National Assembly. What is certain is that tomorrow we will not be here, but this institution will be here. I believe that in all our conversation earlier, we emphasized the need to leave this business in the affairs of competent, qualified people. That means we are trying to divorce the system from politics as much as possible. Now, when this has gone through all the relevant agencies, made by people who are competent as provided for under the law, with profound respect, I do not think that the fact that National Assembly has oversight responsibility, that we should now become an approving authority. No, let me finish. Therefore, I agree absolutely with the sentiment expressed by Senator Dakwambo. I think that what should give us comfort is the fact that, stated or not, anything done by anyone spending or appropriating public funds, this National Assembly has a natural oversight responsibility. That does not mean we should be consulted first before certain things are done, so that we avoid delays such that may turn out to hurt all of us. So that's why I think that Dakwabo, given his background, is being a Secretary General of the Federation, and he understands the issues, and in all of this, time is of the essence. Whatever I relate today, because damaging to it, I don't see why
What Senator Dankwambo is saying is that it will lead to a lot of bottlenecks. That where the minister has given a warrant to the executive vice chairman to go ahead and deduct money from agencies and all that, that's an executive function. And to subject that to the approval of the committee of the Senate means even to deny the Senate and the House of Representatives the opportunity to undertake the oversight. It's going to take long, because it's not only a committee of the Senate that will be required, it will be National Assembly. And so to subject it to the National Assembly, that is House of Representatives and the Senate, the process will become nebulous and cumbersome. So I think we should, distinguished chairman, you should.
I concur.
With that Kwabo's position.
He is about to agree with you.
I agree with on this. When Mr. Distinguished Senator Oshiomhole is making his remark, he said it's always good to give to competent people. I'm a professional. I'm in the field also, financial. So I know what I am doing. So if it is referred that for those that have done this, we have looked at it carefully. And the area that we were only trying to protect is a situation where any budgeted, any fund that has been appropriated by the National Assembly to an agency cannot just be taken. That is all. But if the Senate, in their wisdom, feel this is the right thing, so be it.
The difference, they will go and just take money from an agency without reason. We have all been chief executives one way or the other. So there may be constraint. For instance, you may be under pressure to settle a judgment debt. And the only way you can do it to avoid your properties being forfeited is to take money from anywhere you can see it immediately. Outside that, you have to go for loan. So if that is done, it's left to us to go and oversight and find out whether they can return the money or they cannot return the money. What was the deduction used for? You understand? I don't think it will be done out of context of probity and accountability. So, but if we have to approve that action, we are going to move in circle. So I think we should go with Dan Kwambo. Distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo. Distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo. Now formally move a motion for the amendment of that section. Move a motion for the amendment of that section.
Okay, sir. Your Excellency, I, Senator, that Section 39 be retained as it is. I so moved. The Accountant General of the Federation shall, not later than 30 days of receiving a warrant endorsed by the Executive Vice Chairman of the service and approved by a judicial officer in accordance with the third schedule of the bill, deduct a remitted revenue due from any ministry, department, agency, or government from its budgetary allocation or such other money accruing to it, and shall remit the deductions to the service.
In other words, the new recommendation is rejected.
Yes.
Yes, Distinguished Senator Oshiomhole.
Mr. President, my name is Adam Oshiomhole.
Colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that the Senate do retain the original provisions of Section 39 and reject the proposed amendment. Those in support that we retain the original provision say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Section 4041. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. 42, which is on page 40. The Nigeria Tax Administration Bill 2025. A bill to enact.
Mr. President, Senior Chair, my colleagues, starting long title of the bill, an act to provide for the assessment, collection of, and accounting for revenue accruing to the Federation, federal, states, and local governments, prescribe the powers and functions of tax authorities, and for related matters, SB 585. Mr. President, I have a very serious concern, particularly when you go deeper into the provisions of this particular bill at clauses 87 downwards, where it is clearly intended that we make laws for states and local governments. This is against the Constitution. We don't have powers to make laws for states and local governments. So we may, Mr. President, go into this and look at it more dispassionately.
What section tells you that we don't have powers to make laws for states and local governments? Because what I know legally, by the Constitution, is that any law that is enacted by a state or a bylaw by the local government, which is inconsistent with an act of parliament at the national level, is null and void to the extent of that inconsistency.
Mr. President, you don't make laws for states. That's why you have state houses of assembly.
No, we do. We do. We make laws for states. Where the states make laws, and there's an act of parliament where you have an exclusive legislative list, then you have the concurrent legislative list. Where there's concurrent legislative list, in other words, the states can make law, and the federal government can also make law on the same subject matter. The one that is made by the federal government, that is the National Assembly, the one done by the state, if there is inconsistency, the one by the federal government stands, and the one done by the state is immediately null and void to the extent of that inconsistency.
Well, I stand to be corrected, Mr. President.
Yes.
I maintain my position.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to inform that this particular provisions that the governor was trying to cut took about 3 days. In fact, we had to stand it down. I invite reputable legal minds in this country. And of course, the SAN, our own SAN, was there, and this matter was discussed. And that it was agreed in total that we can do legislation for Nigeria, which includes the subnationals. So I'm not sure whether, I don't know the problem that Senator Tambuwal has on this part, in regard to this particular aspect. Also, you recall that we sat here and do ICPC and do EFCC, and the state was not comfortable, and they took this matter to court. And the one Supreme Court said, no, the National Assembly has powers to do laws, regardless of the subnationals. So I think we are comfortable here, unless there are other legal minds that will say constitutionally we cannot, but the court, the Supreme Court said we can, and I think we should.
I wish you had also consulted me as a ranking legal mind. From my head alone, I know that we can make laws that will bind the states and local governments. If there are areas we cannot, the Constitution will separate those areas. But on areas of there are exceptions. On areas of concurrent jurisdiction, Leader. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Reflect on. We can't make two sets of laws on pay as you earn. There are people working in FCT, but they live in Nasarawa State. There are people who work in Lagos, Mr. President, and they live in Ogun State. The logic of pay as you earn, my brother, is that you pay based on your residence, not where your office is. Because it is in your residence that your family, your children will attend public schools and any of those services provided by state government. The purpose of tax is to address the social needs of human beings. And so if you tamper with this,
Use your mic. Use your mic.
Sir?
Your mic was not working.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I think you gave me the floor. The issue here raised by Senator Dixon.
No, but let's go to the clause.
There is nothing offending in this bill because we have the State Inland Revenue Service. They are to find out where the residence is and they go there and collect the tax. It is not this bill. It's okay the way it is.
Let me explain.
And it's residency requirements that is no. The argument does not offend this very bill as it is.
We are on clause by clause consideration.
Yes, I'm making contribution to
when Senator Tambuwal.
Yes.
Institution that has that because that inherent status in our hierarchy of laws. This is a legislation like any other legislation. That it is a taxation bill does not mean we should elevate it to enjoy the same status of a constitution, of the ground norm. So I'm not convinced that this section 147 adds anything useful even to the bill, because whether it is there or not, if there is a challenge, the courts will do their work. So I humbly move that we, with all due respect, expunge it in its totality. I so move.
Don't be following these people and go
Come on. Congratulations.
All from myself.